I'm going to talk about a word that's been a common theme all week within the pathways coaching and consultancy. And it's a word that has a deep meaning to me. It's a very sacred and spiritual. I think it's used too loosely. I don't think it's a word that you can actually take and tell people this is what you are. I think people have the validation to tell you whether you're this. There's a man up in my wall over there. He's been a role model of mine since 1982, and his name's Sir Alex Ferguson. He talks about being not just a great footballer, but being a fantastic human being. When he talks about a brand of a company, he points up to Manchester United and says nobody, and I mean nobody, is bigger than the brand. Stevie Kidd's lived his whole life through his heart. He's been irrelevant and makes himself irrelevant because his life is about other people. I remember my first job at the age of 12. It was 1 of 9 I had at the age of 12. I wasn't interested in going to the park to play football. I was interested in leadership. I was interested in entrepreneurship and how people carried and how they used their neurology. But I remember going to the first ever customer who opened the door and was unhappy. And as that person took the papers off me, I went to the gate, and I went back and chapped the door. And as the person came to the door, her name is Mrs. McClellan, she said, "What's up?" I said, "No, what's up with you?" And she said, "Stevie, I'm just no bread or milk, and you've handed me the papers, and I'm not going to have tea or toast this morning." She shut the door, and I put my bags on the side of the building, and I ran. And I mean I ran, because I could feel her empathy of her pain. And I went to the shop, got bread and milk. Before I chapped the door, the wee voice says, "Pay attention to the reaction here." And I put the 2 items out in front of me, and she lit up like a Christmas tree. As she hugged me, took the milk and bread and closed the door with a kind of teary eye. That feeling I had in that moment, that's leadership for me. That moment right there is where my life changed at the age of 12, because I said, I'm going to become irrelevant, and I want to feel this way as often as I can for the rest of my life. And from that moment I did. Every interaction I've ever had with a human being, holding a door open, letting people go first, letting people pass by. The whole concept of my whole life is about having empathy, energy, feelings for other human beings, and paying attention to where you are is where you want to be. And if the answer is no, I'm going to say something or do something that's going to allow you to move forward. But I can't do that until I understand every aspect of myself. That's when Carlo talks about, boom, Stevie takes the heart out of your chest, shows it to the world and says, "Who's this person? This is who this person is." And then he puts it back in and says to you, "What do you say?" My life at the beginning was all about me understanding emotions, understanding my neurology, and then being developed my whole life, nearly 40 years of development, and still doing it, which has led me to write this book called The 1% Mindset Book, which is all about helping other people. It's also about developing and passing on the skills to you, for you to understand enough to be able to self-lead yourself. Not necessarily help other people, but you're going to understand more about yourself. But leadership as a word is about serving, giving, and growing. It's about empathy. It's about being able to feel other people's emotions. It's about when you're in the presence of somebody, you're in the presence, but you're there to coach people to be better in every single way. And it's about the product that we'll be doing next week in Dubai, defining what lies beyond excellence, going in and having the ability 4 decades later as a leader, going into organisations that deliver global excellence, understanding the relatability of every single person in the organisation, empowering them to be more and do more, but then being able to understand one another, to then bring that energy and culture, then to challenge ourselves and say, we are global excellence, but how can we all self-lead, and how can we all join up as leaders to create realities that don't exist today? And that's where the power of leadership can go. But it all started for me at the age of 12, chapping a door where a woman never had bread and milk, but also following that man on the wall, and building character and realising for the rest of my life the one word that I'm going to respect for the rest of my life, and I'm only going to use it when I get validation for the world that that's who I am. Because the biggest question that people struggle to answer is who I am. But who are you? And self-lead, and your life will be a masterpiece, because you have no hesitation, you just act, you innovate, you create new realities, and you make things happen.